Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Saddleback webinar. My name is Liz Mangus, Literacy Specialist for Saddleback Educational Publishing. We have a great event for you today. This is a topic we haven't covered. We haven't talked about it. Many of you out there might not even know that esports is a thing. So we are so excited to have a presenter here to tell us all about esports and how we can use that to build a bridge with our students. As you are logging in today, as usual, please locate your control bar and identify the chat and the Q&A icons. Now, this is very important. We want you to interact with us today. We want you to chat with us. However, before you hit send on that chat, please, from the drop-down, choose all panelists and attendees. Let me say that again, because I know people are logging in. When you chat with us today, from the drop down in the chat box, please choose all panelists and attendees. Why? Because that allows everybody who is participating with us today to see what it is you have to say. And it makes it a lot more fun and a lot more engaging. And of course, the Q&A area is for your questions, either for Saddleback or for our presenter today. So if you put your questions in that area, we will get to them either in the Q&A after our time, after the presentation, or sort of during the presentation as appropriate. So while we are waiting, we'll get started right at 3 o'clock Eastern time, by the way. If you could, go to Twitter. This is how you can find us on Twitter. Mention Saddleback and mention Mastery Coding. This is Alan's organization today. This will be a great way to start the conversation, keep the conversation going after the webinar today. If you're watching the recording, we still want you to go to Twitter, let everybody know that you saw it, and let everybody know what you learned. So we got a couple more minutes. We're waiting for some more people to log in. Let's bring in Alan. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you for having me, Liz.
I am particularly excited about this. Let me tell you why. As a mom and as an educator, I don't really feel like I'm with it in terms of like what the kids are into, right? And it's important. It's important to know what kids are into. And if you've been doing this long enough, it gets hard to keep up with what kids are into because trends change, things change. So this is a great opportunity to learn what's happening in their lives outside of school in terms of their interests and use that to help build those relationships and connections. So very excited about this. Now, I know you're in California, right? How's life in California?
I'm in California, about to get Zoom bombed right here.
Oh, hey there.
Okay.
Zoom bombing.
All right, Daddy's doing a webinar. Give me a minute, please.
Hey, this is life. Oh. This is our new reality right here.
Talk about how things have changed right there.
Tell me about it. All right. So for those of you who have logged in, if you could please go to the chat, choose all panelists and attendees, and let us know where you are joining us from. We always want to see who's here. Jennifer, thank you for choosing all panelists and attendees so we can see that you're also in Cali, it looks like. All right. Hello, College Station, Texas. Oh, we got Alabama. Great. Fantastic. All right. I'm waiting for my friends from Canada. Every week, I'm waiting for my Canadian friends so I can officially say we're international. I don't know if that's going to happen. Oh, hi. Thank you. See, as soon as I ask, our Canadian friends pop up. Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Oh, we have Pakistan in the house. Thank you. Another, Alan is in Los Angeles. I'm, of course, in Central Texas, as I think everybody knows by now. Sometimes I forget to even mention it because I just assume people know. Portugal is here again. Hi, Carla. Oh, I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Excellent. All right. Well, we want to stay on schedule. So let me officially launch our topic for today. We're here to talk about academic esports. Many of you either on live with us or watching the recording you might have even no idea what this even is, okay? So that's why we're bringing Alan to you because this is important for you to know. We have a lot of disengagement right now because of our schooling situation and remote learning and all kinds of things happening that feel out of control. So how do we get back in and make that connection with our students? We have to know what they're into. So Alan's here to help us out with that today. Alan Sitomer is a California Teacher of the Year Award winner. He is a nationally renowned keynote speaker, and he's an author of 20 books published by Disney Scholastic and Penguin Putnam. So teacher, speaker, author, and also founder of Mastery Coding. I'm really interested to hear how you went from teacher to Mastery Coding. So I'm sure you'll be telling us about that. And Alan specializes in engaging disengaged, underperforming students and elevating academic achievement while building a pathway for kids to enter a workforce being rapidly changed by technology. Amen to that. We have so much to learn from you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to step to the side here, and I'll only be interrupting as needed with burning questions from the audience.
Great. Well, wow. Thank you. That was a spectacular introduction. Welcome, everybody. So let's see here. I'm going to share my screen right now with everyone, and I'm going to sort of just kind of jump right into it. So this right here is the welcome right here. And I think, I decided I'm going to throw on the beanie, okay? You know why? Because you got to feel it. This is a culture shift right here, okay? We're talking about academic esports. You got to look the part if you're going to bring it, okay? So if anybody has any questions, I would encourage you to use the chat, hit us up. We'll stick around for a Q&A afterwards, but let's fire up the engines and here we go. So esports is huge. I mean, it's bigger than Major League Baseball. Okay, when did that happen? The size is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but it's not just the world outside of academics. In the colleges across the country now, there are over 200 universities, and they're offering millions of dollars in scholarships the same way that you see in basketball and football, et cetera, like that. I mean, it has just exploded right here. So I want to talk about kind of the benefits of esports writ large. So as I just mentioned, there's a big push from the universities that are recognizing it. And to participate on these academic esports teams, they're maintaining kind of the minimum GPAs that allows kind of the same way that a lot of kids will show up to school just because they want to remain eligible for the basketball team. You can harness the power of esports, especially if you're remote learning. We have a lot of people coming to us right now, their kids aren't even logging in. They're not even showing up for kind of Zoom school and things like that. But when they bring an academic esports team and they allow the power of gaming to be the driving force, they're literally getting kids like the ADA and all that stuff. So it's a great way to really bring in students. But it's about bringing in traditionally disenfranchised students also. So you see a lot of kids that they don't find their way into the photography club, and they don't see themselves as part of the drama and the extracurricular organizations and stuff. But extracurriculars, as the research proves, the kids that are involved in things like that are the kids that are sort of not only better engaged, but they're less likely to flunk out or drop out because they feel part of a community. And as you saw a moment ago with my own daughter kind of Zoom bombing me, the idea of community through remote learning, and right now, I mean, this is insane. My own daughter has not met her third grade teacher this year. The entire year, she's never met her live. So God bless her teacher, because man, is she working so hard to build a connection. And I have an 8th grade daughter too, and they do. But I mean, the thing is, using the power of the things the kids love to help build the connection, that's kind of the secret sauce in all this right here. Now, of course, this also ties to literacy and the literacy of computer science and things like that. And what we see is that, over 90% of sort of these, computer scientists and engineers began their careers by playing video games. And I want to take a moment to really talk about, what sets what we're going to talk about today apart. is that it's not simply fun for fun's sake. Of course, you're going to get that right here. But as I mentioned a moment ago, esports, it's bigger than Hollywood as an industry. And therefore, it has availed the students today who love this stuff. And Joseph Campbell said, follow your passion, follow your passion. You don't have to become a professional gamer to get a chance to spend your life. Maybe you make games, maybe you're an artist and you design the colors and the interaction, the user experience with games. Or maybe you have an affinity for the law and you want the corporate relationships, or hardware is your thing, IT, or maybe you're just socially like the marketing, or numbers are your thing, right? Esports is driven by statistics and data. There is a home for these kids to spend the next years of their lives earning a living in a high-paying job that will help them. As my background is working with Title I students, so trying to leverage the power of esports to help kids break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. That is kind of what's baked underneath this. And when you look around, which one of these positions here does not require literacy skills? And this is why, kind of right here, talking about the idea about how these careers in literacy, they're more closely tied together than a lot of people assume at first blush. And of course, what we're also talking about right now is the notion that there's almost two economies going on in the world. Unemployment has exploded, obviously, from the pandemic and things like that. But there's also a talent shortage right now with really high paying jobs if you have the skills. And closing that gap is part of our conversation here today. So, when you look at the data on esports right here, we're talking about the numbers are off the chains. We have so many people that come to me with like, how do we engage our kids? How do we get them involved in academics? How do we look at the numbers of kids? What are they doing when they're done with school? They love video games. And we're talking about, the penetration rates are so astronomical that when you bring this type of thing to your campus and you leverage the power in your own classroom, you're going to get a lot of kids saying, thank goodness, somebody finally understands me right here. So the aim of all this, though, is not solely to let the kids just screw around and have fun. That is not today's webinar. Today's webinar is about proactive and productive gaming. Okay, and yes, that's a thing. I'm going to jump into it right here. Now, first of all, there's a lot of research behind this right here. This isn't just Alan throwing on a beanie, making this up, even though I'm tempted to do that, okay? But I really come to you with the some big academic ideas that I'm going to kind of bring to today's session. So first of all, Dr. Jane McGonigal right here, she has done a lot of research on the notion of transferable benefits from gaming. And she has found that these transferable benefits correlate to schoolwork, they correlate to personal relationships, they correlate to career and job readiness, and they have this correlation to self-efficacy right here. So I'm going to kind of get a little further into the notion today of proactive and productive gaming, but there's a part of me that feels like before I define what proactive and productive gaming is, maybe I should define what it is not, okay? Because this right here is something like, let's just call it for what it is, all right? There's a lot of people have a lot of misperceptions about what video games are, what gaming is to kids and things like that. This is not about students being inattentive to their physical health. This is not about students neglecting sort of self-care. This is not about denying that very critical idea of socio-emotional well-being. This is not about violating every rule of etiquette and sportsmanship. This is not about the idea of just zoning out, being distracted, and disappearing from anything intentional or of cognitive merit as you game. Like, this is not what we're doing. I could go on with this list, but we just have to like sort of call it for what it is. There's a lot of stereotypes out there about gamers, gaming, and kids and gaming. Okay, so I'm gonna just sort of like I get it. We know that people think all these kids are gonna do is sit in a chair for 14 hours and drink Mountain Dew and eat hot Cheetos, right? And just zone out, and not listen to their parents and teachers. That is not what productive and proactive gaming is about. Okay, what we're seeing for schools that bring it conscientiously to their campus with this academic esports mindset is that we're seeing that the students are using esports, and they are, and I mean, this is an ELA sort of slanted webinar, right? The kids are writing expository text and creating their own websites about their teams. We're seeing them learn how to manage their emotions, and the idea of like, going on tilt is a really big thing in the world of gaming. But road rage happens on our streets. Or if you doubt me, when school returns and you go to the lunch break room and you've got the colleagues who are like, and it makes you feel like going on tilt. Learning how to manage your emotions is a very adult skill that's good to learn. We're focusing on the STEM awareness and the competencies right there. The value of reading and math is all over the place when you thoughtfully bring academic esports to your school. Communicating effectively and in small groups is the soul of what championship teams are made of. Of course, the deep thinking skills, the critical thinking, the collaboration, and then for all the orbital areas when it comes to written, the social media, the marketing endeavors. So, we can go to mindsets, grit, and things like that. I could go on, but I want to make sure today's filled with practical tools in a way. So I'm going to jump into that. Now, Tiffany right here is a teacher in Mission VA High School, and she is now the general manager of a team. And this is what she had to say in U.S. News and World Report. She said, most people don't associate playing video games with learning, but she herself has witnessed it on her own team. The students' communication skills improve. They cross language barriers and gender stereotypes to welcome new players to the team. And they try different gameplay strategies based on each other's styles and strengths of their opposition right there. Sort of differentiated learning, by a cat of another name, if you would. There's a wide range of impacts that she discovered from really her first single season of play. And back to Dr. McGonigal here. She points out how there are innumerable benefits to gaming and esports, and the growing body of research is out there to support it. So I want to, like I said, I want to get into like the meat and potatoes of like having this webinar be of pragmatic value to you. So instead of spending a lot more time on the research and what it says, I'm going to get into kind of the how do you do it? Okay, like what is your takeaway? How do you win? And the notion of making sure your kids benefit from the love of video games is absolutely the essential question driving today's webinar. Now, you're going to get pushback if you take the step forward. All right, that's just how it is, how it works. It's okay. I would just say roll with it, and I will provide my email. I'll provide more resources as we go, but this is not always going to be a honeymoon in getting this sort of ship to sail through the port we're speaking of. Having said that, how do you do it? You've got to ask 3 questions. There's just 3 questions to flip the script on ensuring you are getting proactive and productive gaming out of your kids and students. Okay, so I want to back up a second because, as Liz said at the introduction, I am the CEO of Mastery Coding, which is sort of the brainchild of me recognizing that the world has changed and computer science and sort of coding is a literacy very much akin to traditional literacy in reading and writing and so forth, and harnessing the power of esports to build a more literate society, particularly in emerging technologies, is kind of all the goop underneath the iceberg here. Here's the pedagogical schema, if you will, is that number one, we tap kids' passion, right? We start with passion. Anybody who's ever sort of seen me speak before, read any of my books, had a PD, right? It's like you win the hearts, the minds will follow. That is just, I believe that, and I'll go to my grave believing that right there. Then, though, you awaken the curiosity of the students with the aspiration of teaching new skills. So it's not just passion and fun for that sake right there, but you have an actual academic objective. And then what you want to do is you want to funnel the academic objective towards something that holds concrete merit. At Mastery Coding, we drive a lot of kids into earning industry certifications and things like that. And that sets them up to succeed later on in a post K through 12 world. So in the academic esports universe, what we provide is making sure, number one, all the educators are outfitted with a starter kit for first-time coaches, the health and gaming safety protocols, the equity-based educational practices, the scholarships and so forth, the practice guides for socio-emotional learning. We have an LMS and things like that. We have the hardware setups for all major sports. But today's webinar is going to focus on the cross-disciplinary ELA lesson plans. And there's going to be some tools that I give you right now that are going to show you how to build these bridges and get the benefits of the academic transference of which I speak. So, big picture, you got to get set up. You got to get the tryouts, you got to get the teams together, things like that. Then you got to get the practice, you got to get sort of everybody working through the curriculum and so forth. And then you point towards competition, right? Competition, kids love to compete, things like that. So that's what's going on. Once again, what's the overall goal? Is to channel the students' passion for gaming into career and college opportunities. So that's underneath it all. Now, the esports universe and in Mastery Coding, we obviously take advantage of also, as I mentioned, kind of the new literacy of computer science from HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We were at the P5 library, for those of you who know GitHub or Unity. So we're also tying ELA to other languages in the technology and so forth like that. And we do that throughout at every grade level at Mastery Coding. So taking kind of my traditional background in traditional literacy and transposing it and using the academic benefits to move through, that's kind of the schema. And I know this is a longer walk down the pathway right here, but it helps to see the forest for the trees, we think. Ultimately, these are kind of the core elements of literacy. And what we see is that reading and writing, which is probably why a lot of people came today, it can be connected to technology. And if we can channel the students' passion for gaming, we can connect the reading and writing, and we're going to do that through esports. So that right there is kind of the backstory prior to asking the three questions. Now, Liz, before I move down this road, do you, because I can't really monitor the chat at the very moment, are there any burning questions that you would like me to address before I move into the next phase of today?
Okay, so I'm not seeing what I would classify as burning questions, but some interesting threads have of thought have popped up. So we had a participant say, CSL is the new ESL, and this idea of a new literacy needing to take hold for our students. And so I'm particularly intrigued by that idea. And also there's talk of engaging students through choice boards and project-based learning as well as like additional tools for engagement. And I feel like those things could be linked to esports as well. And then Antoinette wants to know, what coding programs do you recommend we use? So that's a question that just came up in terms of
Okay.
learning to code. So that's where we are.
All
I'm
right.
going to let
So
you speak to that before we move along.
So I don't know who said CSL is the new ESL, but I'm stealing that one. That's brilliant. Okay. That is great. That is just, that hits the nail on the head. I love that right there. As far as the idea of project-based learning, everything that we do in Pathway Esports at Mastery Coding and all the curriculum I showed, kids are building. It's experiential learning, and they're manifesting digital portfolios throughout. So that is absolutely, the core tenet of everything that we're going to talk about, in what we offer. And then as far as the different coding curriculum and so forth like that, I can get a little more into it. I don't want to sort of go too deeply down that road. But we literally, as I mentioned earlier, every game was made with code. So the idea of turning gamers into makers is why I started Mastery Coding, right? Is to harness the power to move them into seeing that the new literacies of which we're talking, that's how you do it. And, I know that most of the folks here are in the English language arts, but our engineering team is firmly of the mindset that the best way to learn math is through coding and making your own games and things like that, because suddenly the Pythagorean theorem has meaning, right? It's applied in the when in the world of code, like to close the loop of like even the game Pong, for the ball to hit the paddle, it's when the triangle closes. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And if it doesn't close, then the ball will sail by. When it does close, boom, right there. So the applied mathematics aspect is huge right there. So I'm going to get into how we, tap in across the board as we go. Of course, I'm very reachable, and I've given my email address, and you can check out our website and stuff like that. But let me ask these three questions and get into this aspect, and then if more questions come up, of course, I'll take another pause and answer them right there. So, having said that right there, first question. You really want to go and speak to your student who loves gaming, okay? And overtly ask them and be open to the answer, of course, and really validating them. Ask them, what does it take to be good at this game? Whether they're playing Fortnite or Among Us or League of Legends, Rocket League, right? Minecraft, whatever the case may be, ask them right there. And I guarantee you that you're probably going to meet with eyes that light up like, wait, you actually asking me this? And you're going to get sort of an animated conversation. And then you continue like, well, what skills do you need? And what emotions help you do well? And what emotions cause your performance to decrease? And you will be stupefied by how metacognitively aware these kids are. They might not be able to use the terminology and things like that, but they absolutely understand, man, when I get, when I get a leg up and I just kind of grind the guy down, I can feel him. He's getting this, he's getting all emotional, he's making worse decisions. That's how I win. Then again, I throw my controller, I freak out, this and that, like I go into a fog. These conversations are robust. So once again, the notion of connecting to your students through conversation, and obviously one of the core tenets of literacy, speaking, reading, writing, and listening. This is through speaking and listening right here. Okay, this is a great first pathway in. Next, What have you learned or gotten better at since you've been playing this game? Okay, and this goes back to obviously kind of the growth mindset and things like that, because nobody steps to a game and doesn't get their butt kicked the first few go arounds right there. And so these kids, the longer they play, the more they realize, like, they're very self-aware, and asking them overtly, well, where have you improved? And well, what caused you to improve right there? What practices have you put into place? And then where do you think you still need to improve to get to the level you really want to be right there? And these, I mean, you're going to find these gamers are like, they just know it right there. And suddenly, when you're two questions into this conversation, let me tell you something. These kids are, they're gonna be like, oh my, she cares. He cares. Like, why? Really talking to me. And the value of that connecting through this conversation is so valuable in so many sort of corollary ways to your own academic pursuits that you're kind of trying to bring to your students, your class, etc. It creates deep ripples when you throw this big stone into the pond. Next, what is the hardest thing you have accomplished while playing this game? Like, give them a moment to like talk about their victory. Like, this was getting me. Oh, goodness, but I cracked it right there. And then get them to put words. Well, how did you do it? Okay. And then, what did you specifically have to do? And then how did it make you feel to climb this hurdle right here? And you will be so surprised, because to these questions right here, you're going to hear that little voice going in the back of your head thinking, if you would only bring this to reading books, oh my goodness, right? Like, that's exactly where we're going with this right here. So the connecting with conversation is really, remember, the key term of today is the academic transference of benefits. That's what we're talking about right here. So proactive and productive gaming right here is really steeped in the research that the people who can talk about what they have gotten better at, who specifically can identify the real skills they have developed, they improve their own socio-emotional well-being, their own strategic thinking processes, their own just sense of patience. They develop that kind of, Angela Duckworth, the growth mindset, and their career and job readiness right there. And once again, this goes back to sort of developing self-efficacy. But notice that the questions I just posed, this research is not about just gaming. If you can talk about what you've gotten better at and specifically identify the real skills you've developed in learning to make tiramisu, in learning to improve your downward dog in your yoga practice, right? It doesn't matter. Like, this is sort of the research. We're just applying it to gaming, that when you can talk overtly and you're aware of what you've gotten better at and how you got better, you will continue to get better, and you will develop a hunger to continue to get better. And that's what I find so amazing about the research, is because these kids couldn't give a lick about the research. They're just doing it anyway. And this is why the whole idea of gamified learning, whether or not you believe in it or not, it has merit for reaching today's young generation right there. And when we look out, I just got to say, how are these not valuable life skills? And once again, going back to the key word is, we're not just building these game skills inside the world of gaming. We're building life skills that transfer to other areas of their pursuit. So let's go over to reading, right? Like, how do we apply what we've talked about to reading skills? Well, let's ask three questions right now. And this is, like I said, this is back to my work as a, professional development and ELA, and coming in and doing all kinds of stuff with teachers across the country right here. And it's 3 questions. What are those 3 questions? They are, what does it take to be good at reading this book? What skills do you need? What emotions help you do well? What cause your performance to decrease? This is the exact same paradigm we just used for gaming right there. So the idea of the academic transference of benefits for the student, but now we're shifting it over where the educator can take the transference of benefits from asking the questions over to the world of ELA. How do you connect? Through conversation, right there. Same thing. What have you learned or gotten better at since you've been reading this book? Where have you improved? What caused you to improve? Where do you think you still need to improve? And some kids might overtly say, I haven't improved right here. And this is where you can connect through conversation and just no shame, no guilt. How can I help? Where you hung up? What's the struggle? What's the impediment right here? And this is how you can, once again, we just had the conversation about gaming. I care. I listen to you. Now, let's have a conversation, see how I can help you through the forest right here. And the third question, same thing. What's the hardest thing you've accomplished while reading this book? And for a lot of kids, the answer might just be even opening the silly thing, right? Like you might be at that level with some of these students right here, and just having an open conversation about that. And then, how does it make you feel, right? Where are you at? I said it at the start. When you win the hearts, the minds will follow. Developing the reading comprehension skills, developing the writing skills and everything, it first has to start with an engaged learner wanting to participate. Okay. And if you remove that from the dynamic, you're going to be pushing a book up a hill, is going to roll right back down like Sisyphus the teacher or something. And it's maddening. And who hasn't been there? Probably a lot of people are nodding their heads right now saying, oh my goodness, especially if you're working with, students, who have literacy skills that are years below grade level. They've been shamed by standardized testing and blah, 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 right? This is a means of triaging their emotional connection to literacy. So in summary of this section right here, we're talking about the academic transference for student success. It's the same soul of the question applied from gaming to reading. And you can do it to writing. You can do it to whatever, to tell you the truth right here. But for means of the theme of today's webinar of leveraging the power of esports to make greater gains with your students, this is one technique that you can sort of bring into your repertoire that you might find surprisingly opens up some avenues of success for you. And once again, it's all about that transference. So here's another lesson right here. So, straight out of standards-based ELA, your students, I mentioned standardized tests, right? Understanding the difference between denotation and connotation is almost guaranteed to be assessed in some form or another. Okay. Now, for those of you who need a quick refresher, the denotative definition refers to the literal definitions, the dictionary definition, but the connotative meanings, right? Those are the associations and the implications. Now, especially with language learners, they get hung up all the time on the slang, on the nuance, on the inference and things like that. And it's definitely, if you can read the text, that's good. If you can understand the subtext while reading the text, that's comprehension. How do you use esports to achieve that goal? Well, number one, in this particular lesson. And by the way, this is in the Pathway Esports curriculum, and it's available and things like that. So that's where it comes from right here. But we walk students through, like, first of all, just some real world examples. You know, when he says that politician is a clown, nobody means that he wears a red nose, big shoes, yellow, flower on his lapel, and painted smile. What they mean is the connotative meaning that the politician is a fool. He's a joke right there. Okay. So this kind of clarifies, just to define for kids, the difference between denotative and connotative. But then what we want to do is get them sort of thinking about, how some words or phrases are, they kind of have the same denotative meaning, but connotative meaning is totally different right there. And when you bring these examples, they're like, oh yeah, it's kind of true. They start to see it. But then what we want to do is sort of explore how, language shapes interpretation. And the idea of somebody who's a professional sanitation engineer, it sort of communicates a wildly different job status than somebody who works as a garbage man. Even though denotatively they might mean the same thing, the connotation is all the difference in the world. And when you walk students through this, in gaming, this is everywhere. Okay, it's got its own vernacular. It has its own language all over the place. So if you're not a gamer, you might not know that GG, or good, or it stands for good game. Okay. Now denotatively, they mean pretty much the same thing, good game. But connotatively, okay, it kind of depends what game you're playing, because on one, in one game, it's a tip of the cap, like it's a sportsmanship thing. It's like shaking hands after the game at midfield, saying, you know what, good job, right? Like, well done, GG, buddy, right? That's one way. On the other hand, it's kids are like, I'm about to thrash you. I'm about to walk all over you. GG, baby. And it's like rubbing it in their face that this one is over. Okay. Now, if you don't understand the connotative meaning right there of that, okay, and you don't understand that in one form it's good manners, in one form it's bad manners, and every gamer kid in the example I just gave you right there, they are going to smile right there. They're going to be like, oh my God, we are using this. And you just taught the difference between denotation and connotation, which is standards-based ELA through esports vernacular and gaming right there. Of course, once you have that in the bag, what you do, right, is some student activities right here. So have them identify. Slang is littered with the use of denotation and connotation. Okay. And then their family might use slang, especially like older parents or grandparents, just stuff that, whatever it could be, like that's hip, right? Or that's cool, or no jive, man, whatever, right? Stuff that's like way outdated. Okay. But the kids still get the meaning. And when they analyze it, what we're really driving towards with this whole big thing is the idea of buy-in and how much buy-in matters. You win the hearts, I've said it again, the minds will follow. And when you're using esports as the hook to engage your students, you will find you get a lot more fish that are biting right there. I'm of the opinion personally that buy-in could possibly be the most important ingredient in a teacher's toolkit out of everything right there. And let me explain why this is my opinion. So, imagine that you were given a classroom at the beginning of the year where every student's habits of personhood were characterized by the words on this list. Like literally, you had 28 kids in your class, and all kids, they demonstrated integrity, they showed up with a zest for learning, they had self-discipline, they were kind towards one another, they were tenacious yet adaptable, they had great work ethic, and they took personal responsibility. You know what you're going to have that year? you are going to have a heck of a lot of success. I mean, you're just like, you'd be licking your chops to teach this class right here. Now imagine I waved my wicked wand. I have a magic wand, this nefarious little stick, and you show up the first day of school, and these are the qualities right here that embody the characteristics of personhood demonstrated by your students. You're going to struggle. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter who you are, how expert you are in the content area and things like that. Like I said, buy-in matters right there. And that's why we use the most popular games as a vehicle to get the students to buy in right there. Now, we're even doing this when they're not in school. We have these spring break camps we offer. For those of you who are, not familiar with Among Us, you're probably not working with many kids under the age of 14 years old because it's gone absolutely wild. And what we offer right now are we offer these, camps that kids are stuck at home, remote learning, make them ridiculously affordable type of thing. And what we're doing is there's like the philosophy is game and learn right there. So they don't just play, but we're working on everything from their cyber safety skills. One of the things we've had this incredible mad rush to put every kid online, but nobody has taken the time to teach kids about their digital footprint, about netiquette, about things like that. And it really is such an immense area of need, just cybersecurity in general. It's crazy. So sort of using the gaming to build to the learning is another way that kind of we try to do things. We also have Minecraft, and Minecraft has been around for a while, wildly popular, things like that are available right here. And these students, like, they're so starving for connection all over the place. What we see over and over and over again is that the socio-emotional well-being of our students is really in a rough space right now. I just saw a stat today from the CDC. Teen suicide is up directly as a corollary to kind of the notion of having rotated to remote learning and virtual learning. And these kids are starving to connect. So finding ways to build that right there is super important. And I know that, I want to just, obviously, I'm a big fan of Saddleback and all the work they do in reaching the kids that they reach and the teachers. So if anybody is interested in our camps, we're going to also offer, if you see this webinar and you use the discount code SADDLE, you just go to the website right there. And you can look into it, and we'll make sure that everybody gets a little extra something right there if you're of interest right there in using this. So I guess, to wrap it all up in a way, I think that building these connections between literacy and esports is not as challenging as you might suspect. And I think the benefits and the gains are probably greater than you might have first considered. And obviously, it's a nascent area of schooling, and and it's growing like wildfire, and there's going to be some bumps and fits and starts and things like that. But the question of, perfect is the enemy of good enough, right? We know that students are struggling in so many ways to feel connected, to be engaged, and the learning loss that has occurred over the past 12 months, we know that it is going to be historically studied in ways. And I am here today, the reason I did this webinar is try esports, okay? Just give it a try. I have a feeling you will be able to reach a previously what you suspected maybe was an unreachable student. And even if you get just one, right, that's worth the effort. So, um, thank you guys very much for sort of having me here today. That's my website, my personal email, masterycoding.com. There's all kinds of information and things like that right there. And of course, I would strongly encourage you to check out all the amazing resources of Saddleback Education, because when it comes to the quality of their materials mixed in with the just understanding how to support educators, like they do a phenomenal job. So
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, I'm going to go through and pull up my slide deck in a moment, but I just put in the chat when you mentioned Among Us, I just said, hey, how many of you are aware of this and are talking about it? And we had a few people say, oh yeah, I teach middle school ELA and we use it. And so it's what I want to kind of emphasize. If you are like me, like my own daughter is young, so she's just now starting to like show interest in like Roblox or Among Us. All of her friends are talking about Among Us, so that's another one. But if you, oh, thank you, Ephraim Tovar put in the chat an article or a link about Among Us on Flipgrid. So if you use Flipgrid in your classroom, then there's probably a link there. Thank you for that. If this is all new to you, just to give you like a quick overview, Among Us, Minecraft, Roblox. Alan, what are some other games that the kids might be into that you could that a curious mind, a teacher who
it depends on the age level. I mean, we got Super Smash Brothers, and of course, Overwatch. I mentioned Fortnite, Rocket League, right? And by the way, everything that we do at Mastery Coding is rated T for teen or below. So we don't get into any games that wouldn't be apropos for a campus community. So there are other games that the kids are into, like COD, which stands for Call of Duty, right? Which is kind of like, it's R rated, and it wouldn't have a home in a world of academic esports in the way. So anything that you've seen me discuss right here, we're very big on codes of conduct. And we also, no profanity, no homophobia, no misogyny, right? And these are overt vocabulary words that we're building into the curriculum and things like that. And the idea of raising ethical kids, and having a character-based and a principle-based curriculum is supremely important to us.
Okay, we do have some questions coming in. I want to just jump in and get to these questions because I know for a lot of people, it's their planning period or it's almost time for dismissal, depending on where you are in the country. So we have a question about the curriculum and Pathway Esports and Mastery Coding. It's coming from Verlaine. And the question is this something that can be used in schools? I believe the answer to that is yes. Do the students go through your company? And also a question about the spring break camps. Is this something that teachers do with their kids, or is it like a separate thing run by Mastery Coding?
Okay, so the spring break camps, we run them. So we literally one-stop shop. It's kind of like, we provide the curriculum, we provide the fun, we have the instructors, right, which are camp counselors. We've got like professional gamers and esports kids who play on like college teams across the nation, who are the coaches and things like that. So the kids who have won scholarships, things like that. So all our spring break camps are available for just a school can get it for their school and we'll run it, or an individual kid might want to do it and we'll run it also. So either way, that's how the spring break camps work. And then of course, because we've got spring break happens at different times. Some people, one section of the country, they're off March 15th. Another section of the country is off April 2nd. They're running over the course of 4 weeks right there. The esports that's kind of can be used, there's inside the bell schedule, or there's an after school club that's an elective right there. That right there is something that we support. We provide all the curriculum, and you have an on-site coach, much like you have an on-site soccer coach or tennis coach or things like that. But we provide them with everything they need, soup to nuts, to be successful, to form the team, run the team, and successfully, navigate the team and get involved with tournaments.
Awesome. Okay, we had a request for you to share screen and go back to your last slide to see contact info,
Sure.
and potentially to show that discount code again. I want to
Got
get
it.
I want to get a screenshot of that myself so we can.
All right. Let me share my screen here.
And we definitely have more questions too. So
That's great. We'll take and one of the things also, obviously, the website at masterycoding.com is designed to be an information warehouse. We do a lot of things right there. So I saw in the chat there's a lot of smart questions that lead to other questions and things like that. You can always obviously surf the website, but you can get in touch. And if you're interested in this, we can have people sort of talk with your administrators or things like that. Like give a deep dive into it. We could get you demo site access. Like our only goal here is to help the students win and to help the educators win. The entire world has been reimagined by emerging technologies. And literacy is not something to throw the baby out with the bathwater on right there. So this curriculum is designed to be highly respectful of the principles of Aristotelian logic, while also understanding artificial intelligence is already a thing in all our lives. And that's kind of the design underneath what you will find. And gaming, as you've heard me talk about for the past 45 minutes or so, is very much it's a gateway. That's why we call it pathway esports, because it's about harnessing passion, teaching skills, and opening opportunities.
fantastic. We have another question. This comes from Jennifer. She wants to know the general cost for a school site to get involved with the camps. And I'm guessing, Jennifer, you're going to want to reach out to Alan on that because it's going to depend on a lot of different factors. But Alan, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the answer is that we're very blessed in that I come right out of the classroom, and you got to be insane to go leave the classroom to go start a company to go try to serve classrooms. All right, I will tell you that it's unbelievable. But I'm very, very fortunate in that the board of directors of our company, and yes, I'm the CEO and founder, but we have investors that have financed to bring these things to life, is that their overt aim is to make this preposterously affordable. Like that is the foremost goal, because if we don't take that stance, then the suburban and upper middle class kids get the great first leg up when we're witnessing a moment where education is being democratized. The computer, artificial intelligence, coding, it doesn't care about skin color, gender, etc. If you can do the work, you will get the job. But if you're not getting the opportunity to learn how to do the work, because of societal inequity, because of sociological disparity, because of income gaps, that right there is, it's the great conversation America is having at this very moment about equity. So our prices are literally like rock bottom, and we'll work with you. So like I said, I mean, you're hearing me say it, things like that. It's more important that we support the kids and support the teachers. Okay. So that is our foremost goal.
This is great. So much positivity in the chat. I just wanted to be sure, masterycoding.com is where they can reach you, or is there a separate email address that you want to share?
Masterycoding.com is
Okay.
certainly the best place to go start. You can reach me at Alan, ALAN, at masterycoding.com. Very simple. Or I think I put up my other, my Gmail in the, yeah. So this one, or that's my personal Gmail right there. So either way, I'm very reachable, or so I hope.
Okay, and this is not from an attendee. This is from me because I'm learning too, this question and this thought. I wanted to share these thoughts as you were talking and you were posing those three questions to ask, and saying the gateway is having this conversation. A lot of your students are interested in these things. Here are the questions you can ask and why that's important to build that relationship. It got me thinking, once you have established that relationship with the student and shown that, hey, you're aware that these games are out there and that the kids are interested in them, is it too much to go full teacher and integrate that kind of stuff into the choice board or into the assignments? Do we want to do that, or do we want to keep it as that relationship building conversational tool? Because I myself, I'm guilty. I would be tempted to have that conversation, be like, here's a choice board on all the different ways you can write and create something about a game you love. Is that like ruining it? Like,
I don't think so at all. I absolutely. I mean, every, if you're if you're being manipulative, right, and it's just like, I'm only going to dangle this little carrot, but really it's about stick, stick, stick. The kids are going to see right through that transparently. If you genuinely like, I know absolutely nothing about Among Us, can somebody explain what's why so popular, this and that, and then and in our camp, we literally dive deeply into, because Among Us is kind of, for those of you who don't play it, know it, or whatever, it's like the board game Clue for the 21st century in a way, right? It's kind of like this murder mystery thing, but and you don't know who did it and things like that. And it's fast paced and action packed, but the art of deception mixed with the art of strategic thinking, deductive analysis, like there's a lot of things going on in Among Us that are very much apropos of buying an automobile, right? Like, what
mhm.
is this person like? They just said, "What is that true? Is it this right?" Like, so the idea of creating deeper thinkers is why we call our spring break camps game and learn camps. And it's why you heard me with academic esports. If you love Fortnite, you realize that you could have a career if you built your own version of Fortnite, or you became a shoutcaster that, and that's like kind of a broadcaster in streaming and things like that. And there are influencers between Discord and Twitch and things like that right there, that these things didn't exist 10 years ago. And the kids all know. And when you validate that right there, that assignment about the choice board feels like the kid is going to be like, where's my pencil? That's more of what I would suspect you're going to get out of it.
Good point, though, about not being manipulative about it. Like having a genuine interest in learning about these things and having the students explain that to you, in the spirit of truly wanting to learn from the student. It does so much in terms of building that relationship and allowing that student to share his or her expertise with you, because they may not love Shakespeare, but they can tell you a thing or two about Among Us or what have you. Now, this goes to these two questions that just came in from Verlaine, who wants to know, if you know next to nothing about gaming as a teacher, does this still work? Or
Totally.
yeah.
Okay. So, I obviously am, a curriculum builder, and I remember that, like I was silly enough to volunteer to coach the baseball team one year at my high school. Okay. And I say silly enough because I played baseball. I love baseball. Right. So it's like, I'm suddenly the coach. And that all I got was a bag of bats and balls. That's it. I had to figure out everything else by myself, and the amount of hours working everything right there. And then one year I coached the mock trial team also right there, and having to figure it out. And the idea of what you get with us is you get a warm chocolate chip cookie and a hot cup of cocoa, right? Like, we're going to take it through. We've got people who are just the volleyball coach, right? Okay, I'll be the coach, right? I know nothing about these games, right? So making sure that the person who coaches it doesn't drown was the foremost initiative put to the team when we built this curriculum. So it really is about putting the onus on making the student-centered learning. And the more passionate the kids are, the more work they have to do to make their team successful. And the thing is that you see is that they'll sort of like they work this and that, and then they run up against another team that's taking it more seriously than them, and then they get their butts kicked, and then they're like, we got to double down, we got to get serious, right? And they start self-coaching and things like that. And that is something that is not a unicorn, what I just described. You see that they're like self-belief, like, we got to get it together, we got to practice, got to be on time, we got to make sure we're communicating here and things like that, because when they win these tournaments right there, their buttons are popping off their shirts right there, they love it. So it's all, like I said, there's a lot of upside, but no, the person who volunteers to coach this does not need to be a gamer, and they certainly are not setting themselves up for, oh my goodness, no good deed goes unpunished.
Thank you. And likewise, if you're just a ELA teacher who wants to work this into the conversation, I don't think you need to know anything about it. I think you let the students drive that the way Alan described, and that will allow the students to kick the door wide open, and you can learn that way too. Last question is the curriculum. Are there applications and any camps for gifted students, or is this sort of it works for everybody because of the different levels of mastery in the games, or how does that work with a
So
lens on gifted students?
yeah, well, for it depends which camp, because different games are different sort of, so sometimes they're stratified, right? Sometimes it's just everybody, like, like a game like Fortnite is, 100 people at a time, right, playing in a universe right there. A game like Hearthstone can be 1v1, which we have right there. So we obviously work hard to match skill sets right there. That's really important. And sometimes age and grade bands have a corollary. In Among Us, eighth graders usually don't want to play with third graders, type of thing. But when it comes to Fortnite, I've seen seventh graders trounce 11th graders, right? It has nothing to, right? Like, it's like it's game on. So it's going to depend on which camp right there. And then Minecraft right there is, Minecraft, we've built our own original Minecraft, engineering camp and things like that. So they only would be able to get what we're doing with Minecraft. But Minecraft is, it's been around forever, and it's phenomenal, and we couldn't be bigger fans. So we built some curriculum around our own thing, and they're learning, principles of engineering and a lot of STEM-based stuff, but it's through fun and building and creating. And then we have Society Craft also, which is a club that if you're interested for your school, like an after-school club, where over the course of 8 weeks, they would literally build their own society, right? I mean, the principles of, like democracy and then commerce and all these things right there. So it's a really big lesson in everything from, history, government, evolutionary anthropology,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
But it's so fun.
Incredible. We've gone over time, but I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to get their questions answered. So thank you, Alan. And before I forget, come back next week to see Carly, everybody. Many of you already know Carly Spina from her blog and from Twitter. She's going to talk to us about, again, this idea of student engagement and distance learning, but she's an EL and a bilingual instructional coach. So she's going to have that lens specifically on English learners and developing that oral language piece. So she's got some really cute and fun ideas, and I think you'll love it. So please join us next week. You can register on the website, or you'll get an email prompting you to register as well. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time. Oh yes, can't forget this. If you need your high-low books digitally, we now have an ebook platform. Check out the on-demand webinar on our YouTube channel where I walk you through it. I let you know how it works, tell you all the cool things you can do with it. Check it out on the YouTube channel. And Saddleback, of course, is on whatever your favorite social media platform is. We're there. Find us, like us, follow us. Let us know if you have any questions. And of course, thank you for all you do every day. And thank you for spending some time to learn with us today. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.